This is Katrin with Disability Rights New York. Welcome to our podcast, Empire State of Rights Closed Captioned. We are here to bring you information on the most relevant topics regarding disability rights and advocacy. Today we welcome Teresa Moore. She's the director of the SABE GoVote project at Self Advocates Becoming Empowered, or SABE. She's here to discuss SABE's GoVoter project and its 2020 Voter Experience Survey. Teresa, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
Teresa, let's start by explaining what SABE is and why it created the GoVoter project.
SABE is a national organization that became a nonprofit officially in 1990, and they are the oldest national self-advocacy organization in the U.S. We are run by self-advocates for self-advocates, and that's people primarily with intellectual, developmental, and cognitive disabilities. But we include all people with disabilities. We don't require you to tell us anything about your disability if you're not comfortable doing that.
And SABE currently has a national survey for voters with disabilities to share their voting experience during the 2020 election. In fact, DRNY has been posting this survey every other day for the past couple of weeks since election. Talk to us about what the goal of this survey is and how will SABE use this information provided by participants?
I'd like to add a little bit of the history. When we first started going around and asking people about their voting experiences in 2002, when we first developed the project, we found out that self-advocates said they weren't voting. And we said, well, why is that? And they said, well, people have told me I can't vote. I'm not smart enough. And to be honest, I never really had any of that government in my high school education. Sometimes they would take people out of the room because they thought it was too hard for them. And they would go have them do something else, like watch a movie, while everyone else was learning about government. And so people never really got a good understanding of it. And if they did have it, it wasn't explained in a way that it stuck with people and they felt really comfortable. So we first took on that not smart enough question, which we said, yes, you definitely are smart enough and you definitely can learn what the process for voting is. There's all kinds of steps, and once you learn the steps, the more often you do it, the better you're going to feel. So we spent the next few years just really teaching ways to help people understand. And once they got it, they wanted to vote. They felt ready. They actually felt like they were paying more attention to what was going on than some of their other family members and other people that they knew. And they said, why don't they care about it? And we reminded them, just like you, people didn't feel as comfortable with this process as we thought they would when they became adults. And so one of the things is that when we looked around to see what kind of experience people were having with disabilities in general, a lot of that information was a little bit vague, and it mostly concentrated on accessibility at the polls and not really their understanding or their feeling comfortable with it. And so our survey was made. We first released it in 2012 election. We do every other year the national election. And in 2012, our first one, we just had a few hundred do it for a sampling because we weren't sure exactly if we were asking the right questions. And so to test the questions, we put it out in 2012. And we found that people wanted to tell us more, but we realized that sometimes they might need help. And they asked us, can you do most of the writing for us and put down some of the common answers so that we can just check it? or click it on something that was easy to use. And so we did that. We made every year we go through it again and ask ourselves what are the responses that people mostly gave. And now we have multiple elections we've gone through, and it's been really exciting watching. Now we have a tool where we can watch how things improve, or if they stay the same, or if they haven't improved at all, which is great information to have. And we work with the protection and advocacy organizations like yours to help us get the word out and to have a good resource of information. We started including PNAs in our trainings to make sure that if there was any changes in state laws around voting, that we had the most up-to-date information from the PNA to help the self-advocates make sure they were educating the community correctly, because there were some legal things around. I'm sure everyone kind of remembers when ID laws started popping up around the country. People were very confused, and that was one of the things the protection and advocacy organizations really helped us to get the word out and to have people check those laws. And we look at registrations, whether they try to filter out individuals with a cognitive, intellectual, or developmental disability folks by putting in if you have been deemed incapacitated by your state or something like that, which meant did you have a guardian? Well, people didn't realize that that's what that even meant. They weren't even answering it on their registrations. So those kinds of things is what we help with, and a little bit about why we continue to do this.
Yes, what great information. And it sounds like the survey is addressing so many different things. I mean, it's really looking at voting from an historical perspective and what types of information that people have before they vote, which is wonderful. It's also very clear that this survey is organic and pretty fluid in that each year you're addressing new issues that you find in the survey. So I find that to be very interesting and pretty dynamic as far as surveys go, considering a lot of times we see the word survey and it sounds like maybe it's some standardized process that it's the same thing every year. And maybe the information that is coming out of it isn't necessarily going to be worthwhile to everyone. And from what you're telling us, this is certainly not the case with this survey. And to that end, what kind of questions can participants expect on this survey in particular?
One of the big things that we do is we ask, are you a new voter? And we took a look at your answers in New York a week and a half ago or so, and it was just a sampling so far. At that time, there was only about 35 people that had done it. Now there have been 97 do it. So these numbers are a little bit older, but they are a sampling of what people wanted to talk to us about. And one of the things that we ask is whether they're first time voters. And it was 6% of new voters filled out the survey in your state. And we wanted to know how they voted and how did it go. And 22%, it was hard to get my absentee ballot. And I think it was because people weren't sure what to do and how to get it. And we do use different words to describe things in different states. And basically, that was the vote by mail. If you didn't think you were going to be available historically, we encourage people to get the absentee ballot, which meant I couldn't get to the polls. But this time we used voting by mail more so in a combination to help describe this, because some people, because of COVID, wanted to vote by mail. And so you did have an increase of individuals who voted by mail by 22% also. And those who needed help to vote also spoke about that. And 11% said they didn't need any staff assistance at home to help them fill out their ballot or at the polls. They wanted to do it themselves.
And Teresa, were there any questions on this survey related to COVID specifically? It was pretty big news this year. So is that something that you added to the survey?
Yes, we did add questions about COVID. What we wanted to know is, did it change how you would vote? Particularly, people responded around going to the polls to vote versus mailing their ballot in. And in New York, had a 13% of voters who said they did use mail in ballots versus going to the polls. Some people, it was their first time using a mail in ballot. So that was something that they were worried about. The fear is going to probably be evident for the whole country. We're expecting some states totally changed how they did voting this year and went to all mailing. And some people with disabilities were very upset about that being taken away as an option. They felt that they could, with proper cleaning and themselves wearing masks and other things, that they should have the right to go to the polls. If that is how their state always done it, they had that option. But we noticed that it also in your state increased the number of voters who would try to vote early and go early to the polls. We added those items to make sure that it was easy for people to respond to us about that. And we wanted to know if with COVID, did it change the accessibility of the polling place? And for your state, for some individuals, it did. They noticed a difference because things had to be spread apart more and give more time to the process because they needed to wait for just a certain number of people to be in the polling area. So that was something that was obvious to us looking at the responses from your state and from other states.
And so, how can people access SABE's 2020 voter experience survey?
They can go on the sabeusa.org website and access it through our front page, or they can go straight through to the GoVoter page, which is govoter.org. We've always been inspired to say, go vote, because we're a nonpartisan group. We don't mind who you vote for. Just say something, do something about what's going to happen to you and speak up. Make sure you use it. So it's right there on the front of our Go Vote page. And we have it in English and in Spanish. And if you're a person who would like to help your state collect surveys, for example, if you're meeting in person or if you think it's easier to send your members a survey to fill out, then you can call our offices and the numbers there, and we can send you what is called the paper version. But in the paper version, it has all the different ways you can vote in person, by mail, or on election day or early voting. So we ask questions about all those things when you fill out the survey. So the survey online is much easier for folks, but it is not uncommon for people to want to do it by paper. So every year we have several hundred that people send us in paper copy. We enter it for them. We do like a data entry day.
It's so great to have the multiple versions of this for people to use and have some more accessibility with language and having something that's a paper document as opposed to what's online. I agree. A lot of people do like to have that tactile experience of holding something in their hand and taking a little more time with it. And we will list these resources and the websites in the description of this podcast. So those resources will be available. Is there a deadline for submission of this survey? How long is it going to run for?
We have the survey open until January 15th. Plus, we have many self-advocates that have done the surveys before, and they can help explain any questions that people have when they're filling it out. Also, when people are members of groups that meet, like you're part of something at your independent living center or something like that, you can maybe schedule some time with a particular group that you want to make sure their opinions are heard. We have some groups that, focus on making sure individuals who are blind or deaf or hard of hearing get to participate in, and they want to make sure that they can help that person directly if they need that help.
Teresa, it's been so nice talking with you today. Thank you for letting us know about this survey and all the resources that are available. We will be listing them in the description of this podcast. Is there anything else that you'd like our audience to know about the GoVoter project today?
I think that we want people to know that working with your protection and advocacy organization is a really great way to build your confidence in voting in your state. They are the experts about the law and self advocates. They can get our training with their PNA if they haven't done it already. You can get the training. We do it once a year to provide it to a state that hasn't done it before, or audit it like a class. And if you're a state who's had it before and you just want to listen to how to train and use the GoVoter toolkit, you can come on and kind of audit our training. And for the states who do the training that haven't done it before, the self advocacy group gets $500. So we do encourage states to get the training with their PNA and self advocates, because the PNA looks at the legal part. Self advocates want to know how it affects their lives. And when you have self advocates learn this training, they go, everything is connected. Oh my goodness. And they get really excited. So it's really fun to watch the training open all of that information up again to people who maybe didn't use it, or years ago before the Help America Vote Act and machines were made available for people who might now be willing to try it because they got to practice with the equipment. And the equipment's getting a facelift, and it's so much easier than it used to be. So if you haven't voted for a while and you're curious, just help set up a training in your state and learn all about it. It's never too late to start voting. I was a late bloomer. I didn't register until I was in my 20s because I was scared. So after I got all this information, I was like bursting to share it, because I knew if I had that experience, there must be other people who had that experience where they didn't feel prepared. But now I love it. And giving the survey and responding to it, we know that we give it to your PNAs. We share it with the federal government. So we work directly with all the state PNAs that want to be involved, and we want to meet more self-advocates and help them get trained and feel confident to vote.
Teresa, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
Empire State of Rights Closed Captioned has been brought to you by Disability Rights New York, your source for disability rights and advocacy. If you enjoyed our program, make sure to subscribe, like, and share this post. If there is a subject you would like us to discuss, please email podcast@drny.org or comment below. Tune in next Wednesday, where we'll bring you more information on disability rights in the state of New York. The closed captioned and ASL version of this podcast is available on our YouTube channel. To listen to more Empire State of Rights closed captioned, follow us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify.